What's happening on the Temple Mount is unusual. In recent months, excavators have been spotted working around the Kidron Valley, in areas near Mount Moriah. But what caught the eye wasn't the excavation itself, but what happened immediately afterward. A closed convoy carrying Torah scrolls, led by Jewish religious figures dressed as in biblical times. They didn't speak to anyone. They didn't explain anything. They simply headed toward the marked area, as if they knew exactly what to do. And all the while, civilian drones captured a mark on the ground. A rectangle with measurements identical to those in Ezekiel 41. This movement coincides with the arrival of a red heifer, rare, untouched, flawless, placed at the foot of the mountain, under rabbinical supervision. This alone would be enough to raise suspicions. But it doesn't stop there. Researchers at Tel Aviv University confirmed that soil tests are being done to verify whether the site is suitable for sacrifices, as required in the Torah. The tests include checking the soil's composition, and even chemical simulations with purifying ash. And while the Israeli government doesn't publicly acknowledge anything, one phrase was recorded during a closed-door Knesset meeting. It's in accordance with the prophecy. The Temple Institute, on the other hand, neither denies nor confirms. But since the beginning of the year, they have intensified the production of sacred instruments, stone altars without metal tools, priestly vestments dyed with the biblical blue extracted from Mediterranean mollusks, and even a table of showbread made of gold are already ready. We're not talking about replicas for a museum. We are talking about functional objects, built to be used once the temple is activated. Everything is confidential, but everything points to a single objective: reconstruction. And the most serious, there are underground movements near the Western Wall. Satellite images from independent analysts show nighttime excavations in areas where there should supposedly be nothing. The official explanation? Infrastructure upgrades. But anonymous sources speak of something completely different. Ancient tunnels being reopened, hidden chambers being accessed, and a possibility that until recently was considered far-fetched. The Ark of the Covenant may be about to be located. Tensions are rising, and not just in Jerusalem. Nations like Iran and Turkey have already reacted. Islamic leaders accuse Israel of spiritual provocation. Calls for jihad have been recorded in official statements, and while all this is happening, the silence on the Israeli side is almost total. No one is confirming anything. But security around the mountain has increased, and priests from the lineage of Levi, trained for decades, have been seen closer to the site. There are no announcements, but there are footsteps, and those who pay attention are seeing them. Whoever ignores it will be surprised, because this story is no longer about whether the third temple will be built. The question now is, when? And who will try to stop it? The world is watching wars, crises, politics, but God's clock has always been tuned to Jerusalem. And there, in the center of it all, a stone could be being placed at this very moment, without a camera, without news, but with a purpose. To help you understand more clearly and quickly the signs surrounding us in challenging times like these, it's crucial to be aware of the prophecies that are being fulfilled. Many still don't realize the magnitude of what's happening around us, which is why I've decided to offer something special to all channel subscribers, an exclusive digital ebook titled The Secret Behind the Holy Bible. This book is an unmissable opportunity to access powerful revelations about biblical prophecies that will open your eyes to today's reality. Don't miss this unique opportunity. The knowledge contained in this ebook can change the way you view the events around you. The process to obtain your gift is quick and simple. Just click the link in the first pinned comment to download it immediately. But be careful. We only have a few copies available, and they're selling out fast. Don't delay your decision. Get your copy now before the ebook is taken offline. Take advantage of this exclusive opportunity and be prepared for what's to come. Before we continue the video, an important message. Don't forget to secure your copy of our exclusive book. It's available in the first pinned comment of this video. Take advantage of this unique opportunity. Since 2022, 5 red heifers have been brought from the United States to Israel. This was no accident. They were raised on Texas farms under a strict protocol. No work, no touching, no physical harm. To most people, this seems inconsequential. But for those who understand biblical prophecy, this is a wake-up call. According to the book of Numbers, chapter 19, without the red heifer, the priests cannot be purified. Without purification, the temple cannot function. And according to rabbinical sources, at least one of these heifers still remains absolutely pure. And that changes everything. These animals are inspected every day, hair by hair. If even 2 hairs are found that aren't the exact color, the entire process is invalidated. And now, in mid-2025, this heifer has already reached the exact age required for sacrifice, 3 years old. She is kept under guard in a secret facility in northern Israel. The location is not revealed even to scholars, and the reason for this is obvious. Any damage, any error, restarts the count, and the temple remains paralyzed. But if it is approved, the process is immediate. Everything is already prepared. The sacrifice site will not be on the Temple Mount, but on the Mount of Olives, facing it. This is not a random choice either. The Torah requires that the heifer be sacrificed outside the camp, and that the priest be able to see the temple from a distance during the ritual. The altar for this ceremony already exists. The wood has already been prepared, and the utensils are ready. The priest must be a descendant of Aaron and be ritually pure. Therefore, for the past 3 years, young men from the lineage of Levi have been trained, isolated, and purified with the utmost rigor. The purpose is not symbolic. It's functional. When the ashes are generated, they will be mixed with living water from a natural spring and stored in stone vessels, as per the original commandment. This water will be used to purify the priests and sacred objects, and from that moment, temple services can begin again. It's not a religious performance. It's a complete revival of the priestly system described in the Bible, and each step is being carried out exactly as written. Most people aren't paying attention because there's been no official announcement, but those observing the movements notice that the pace has quickened. The priestly vestments were once made from the same materials described in Exodus. Even the sky blue fabric lost for 2,000 years was recreated from marine mollusks, a process that was only recently rediscovered. Harps were tuned to ancient Hebrew scales, and every instrument in the temple is already ready and in stock, waiting for the right time. The world remains distracted, but from a spiritual perspective, the clock has accelerated. And when the first purification is accomplished, something will be released. Priestly authority will be restored. The altar can be activated. And what seemed like a distant prophecy can become a visible reality before our eyes. All because of an animal that almost no one is seeing. But that carries on its back one of the most important triggers of the entire prophetic plan. Few people know, but the main altar of the third temple has already been built. It is ready, tested, and stored in a secret location on the outskirts of Jerusalem. It was made with natural, uncut stones, as per the biblical commandment. No iron tool touched the material. This is a fundamental detail, because any violation of this principle nullifies its consecration. The altar was already set up once in a desert area, just for testing, and now awaits the purification ceremony before being transported to its final location. It's no longer a project. It exists. Sources close to the project confirmed that the entire system necessary for the altar service is complete. Ramps, vases, basins, tables, and vestments, all strictly following biblical standards. The only missing piece for full operation is purification with the ashes of the red heifer. This means the altar is sleeping, but it is alive. It won't be presented to the public with fanfare or global announcement. According to people involved, it will be installed quietly, at the right time, in a closed ceremony, without cameras. That's already been decided. While the public discusses politics, wars, and elections, a select group is preparing for something much more decisive. Trained priests memorize the orders of sacrifices. Musicians tune instruments to ancient scales. Women sew robes according to the tabernacle's measurements. All of this is happening now. They're not museum pieces. They're tools for spiritual renewal. Something that hasn't been done in over 2,000 years is about to be restored, and many haven't even noticed. Satellite reports show nighttime activity around the Temple Mount. Materials are being unloaded silently through underground passageways. Covered trucks arrive at irregular times, accompanied by unmarked private security. In some cases, stone structures were seen being unloaded in restricted areas, close to the ancient gates of the old city. There are also reports that parts of the altar have already been moved to locations closer to the hill, all in absolute silence. But the signs are visible. The question that arises now is no longer whether there is intent. The question is, when will the first spark light the altar? Because when this happens, it won't be an isolated act. It will be the activation of a prophetic system. With each piece that comes into operation, God's clock advances, and the spiritual world feels it. So far, there has been political resistance, but no practical blockade. It's as if the natural world is being forced to retreat, allowing this plan to proceed to its limit. And that limit is approaching. The altar represents the heart of the temple, and according to the Bible, when it is activated, the sky reacts. It was so with Moses. It was so with Elijah. It was so with Solomon. Whenever an altar is lit with purity, there is a divine response. The question is, what will happen when this altar is restored? Peace? War? The return of glory? The final judgment? No one knows. But what we do know is that everything necessary is already in place. All that's missing is a gesture, a fire, and everything changes. While most people watch the news waiting for the next war in the Middle East, something even more important is happening behind the scenes. True conflict doesn't begin with tanks or missiles. It begins with silence, with nighttime excavations, with whispered prayers on ancient walls. Jerusalem is being watched like never before, not just by Jews and Christians, but by governments, spies, security forces, and radical groups who know that the Third Temple is not just a building. It is a spiritual and geopolitical trigger. The rebuilding of the temple will not be accepted peacefully. Since the first signs that the process has begun appeared, countries like Iran, Turkey, and even UN representatives have already made public warning statements. They call it a religious provocation, a threat to regional stability, a risk of holy war. And they're right about one thing. If the temple is rebuilt, everything changes, because it represents the return of something the modern world has no control over: direct, public, and exclusive worship of the God of Israel, in the place where heaven and earth met. But that hasn't stopped progress. Sources close to the Temple Institute revealed that the sacred instruments have already begun to be transported to locations closer to the old city. There's no announcement, no press conference, but there are movements, there's surveillance, there's protection. The priestly vestments are being stored in underground vaults. The musicians have already been called. The Levites, trained for years, are on standby. Everything is ready. All that's missing is the altar's release. And this release is tied to one thing: purification. This is why the spiritual world is on alert. Because what's about to happen isn't just the activation of a building. It's the restart of a prophetic cycle interrupted over 2,000 years ago. And this cycle involves the return of God's presence. Zechariah had already prophesied that in the last days, Jerusalem would be a cup of dizziness to all nations. And that is exactly what we are seeing now. Every decision in Israel provokes reactions in Iran, Lebanon, Gaza, and the United Nations. And it all revolves around a piece of sacred stone. For now, the mound remains sealed, but that could change at any time. Satellite images have already shown micro-vibrations underground, indicating foundation movements. There is reinforced military surveillance at the mound's side entrances. Witnesses claim to have seen religious leaders entering at unusual hours, under heavy escort. Security has increased, but communication remains silent. This leads many to believe that the first block may have already been placed, and the world simply doesn't know yet. All of this points to an undeniable reality. The war will not be just between armies. It will be between two kingdoms. The temple represents one side. The world that rejects it represents the other. And the signs show that this battle has already begun, not with explosions, but with whispers. not with headlines, but with stones placed in secret. And whatever is decided there, on that small mountain in Jerusalem, will impact the entire planet. There's one thing that almost no one talks about. The plan for the third temple is now ready. It's not theory. It was designed based on measurements from the book of Ezekiel. Modern architects recreated every meter, every room, every utensil, even the inner courtyards. Everything was digitized, encrypted, and cross-referenced with satellite images of Mount Moriah. What for centuries was just a drawing in the minds of prophets has now become a real project, with precise coordinates and technical feasibility. And more. The engineers already know where the first stone will be placed. According to sources close to the project, this stone already exists. It was carved in silence, away from the eyes of the world, following specific criteria of purity and proportion. Biblical texts and ancient prayers were inscribed on it, and it will not be placed with music or speech. It will be placed with reverence, without media, without warning, just a few men dressed in white, at the most discreet time possible, carrying an object that carries on its back the weight of millennia of history and promise. For many, this will be just another stone. But in heaven, it will be an announcement. The question that looms over all this is, what comes next? Because if the altar is ready, the priests are trained, the blueprint is approved, and the red heifer is alive, then only one thing remains: the beginning. And this beginning will not be symbolic. It will be spiritual. And when the smoke rises from the altar for the first time, the world will react, some with faith, others with fear, and others with anger. But no one will remain indifferent. Because this will not be just a religious act. It will be a sign, a milestone, a watershed moment. The oldest rabbis say that when the altar is activated in holiness, God responds, whether with fire, glory, or judgment. In all the biblical examples, the altar never remained silent. There was always an answer. And the question is the world ready for this response again? After 2 millennia of silence, can we handle God's presence returning to dwell in the place He chose? Or has the modern world lost the fear necessary to recognize what is holy?